We put up a Halloween display, nothing wild. Just pumpkins, a few skeletons, and a fake tombstone that said, "Here lies our peace and quiet." The next day, our neighbor filed a harassment complaint. She claimed the tombstone was about her. We laughed it off. But then someone painted a giant "Death to Fakes" across our garage door. We checked the footage. The face was covered, but the gloves she wore? Knitted. The same pair she gave my wife last Christmas. We've lived in Salem, Oregon for almost a decade now. My wife Danny and I moved here after we got married. It was a small house on a quiet street with big trees and well-kept lawns. The kind of place where you think nothing bad ever happens. The kind of place where people wave, say good morning, and bring you banana bread when you move in. We learned too late that not every smile on this street was honest. When we first moved in, Bev Harrison from 2 houses down came over with a peach cobbler. She looked normal. Early 60s maybe, dyed blonde hair, thick lipstick, smelled like some kind of lavender lotion. She talked fast, and she liked to act like she ran the whole block. Said things like, "I try to keep things organized around here." And, "We have an understanding in this neighborhood, people like quiet." She wasn't rude. But she wasn't kind either. It was more like polite control. She'd bring up weird little rules every time we saw her. No loud music after 8 p.m. We have older folks here. No holiday lights past January 2nd. HOA doesn't like that. No political signs. It ruins the look of the street. We just nodded, smiled. Figured it wasn't worth pushing back. Danny would say, "She's just one of those people who needs to feel important." The truth is, we had bigger things on our minds. Last year was hard. We'd been trying to have a baby for 2 years, and in June, Danny had a miscarriage. It wrecked us. We didn't tell many people. Didn't want the pity, didn't want the questions. We just tried to get through each day. When Halloween came around, we weren't in the mood for parties or trick-or-treating. But we figured we could decorate the yard a little. Keep things simple. We put out a few carved pumpkins, some old plastic skeletons we had in the garage, and a foam tombstone Danny had bought years ago. It said, "Here lies our peace and quiet." Just something small. A joke. Maybe a little passive, but not cruel. That night we sat on the porch, handed out candy, and tried to feel normal. The next morning, there was a note taped to our door. Typed. No greeting. No name signed except B. Harrison. It read, "Your Halloween display contains offensive and targeted language. It is clearly intended to harass and provoke me. This is a formal notice that I will be filing a report with the HOA and the local police. Harassment is a crime. Remove the item immediately." I actually laughed when I read it. I thought, is she serious? Danny didn't laugh. She looked pale. Shaky. She said, "Why would she think it's about her?" I shrugged. "Because she's paranoid. That thing's not about her." But Danny said something I'll never forget. "No, but now it is." That night, she couldn't sleep. I tried to calm her down. Told her Bev was just being dramatic, and that it would blow over. I didn't realize it was just the beginning. 3 nights later, we were woken up by a loud bang. It was around 1:40 in the morning. I jumped out of bed and ran downstairs. Our garage door was covered in red spray paint. "Death to Fakes." The letters were huge. Sloppy. Running down like blood. Whoever did it also smashed one of our pumpkins and snapped the tombstone in half. There were shards of foam everywhere. Danny screamed when she saw it. We called the police. They came, took photos, and asked if we had security cameras. Luckily we did. I showed them the footage. The figure was small. Covered head to toe in black. Hoodie, jeans, gloves, face mask. They parked around the corner and walked up on foot. They spray-painted the door, smashed the stuff, and ran. All in less than 90 seconds. The police couldn't make out the face. But I could see the gloves. Gray and burgundy. Thick yarn. A little loose at the fingertips. And there was a tiny loop of thread hanging from the left pinky. I knew those gloves. Bev gave them to Danny last Christmas. Said she knitted them herself. Said they were one of a kind. Danny still had them. Same colors. Same loop of thread. We told the officer. He didn't take it seriously. Said it was interesting, but not enough to do anything. Danny started crying again. This time it wasn't just fear. It was grief. Rage. Helplessness. I told her I'd handle it. I didn't mean just the paint. I meant everything. I started with the gloves. Bev had given them to Danny last Christmas in this little box with a bow and a handwritten tag. Danny had saved the box, not because of Bev, but because she liked how the ribbon matched our holiday decorations. That tag? Still tucked in the box. It said, "Made just for you, Bev." I took pictures of the gloves, of the box, of the tag. Then I pulled the camera footage again and slowed it down. I zoomed in on the gloves in motion. Same knit pattern. Same shape. Even the way the wrist cuff curled a little. I saved all of it. Filed it away. Danny wanted to repaint the garage door right away, but I told her to wait. I wanted every neighbor to see it. To know what someone did to us. To feel it. And they did. The next day, people slowed down in front of our house. Some walked up to check in. Others just stared from their porches. We didn't say anything. Let them think what they wanted. That night, I sat at my desk and wrote out everything I knew about Bev. I made a timeline. I listed every weird comment she made to us since we moved in. Things we brushed off back then but felt different now. Like when she said, "I like to keep things tidy on this street. Too many young people bring noise." Or when she told Danny, "You're not really the quiet type, are you?" That one stuck with me. Danny is quiet. Shy even. But Bev never liked her. Next, I did some digging online. Bev always said she was divorced. Talked about her useless ex-husband, in passing. But when I searched public records, I found something else. She was still married. But there was a restraining order against her. Filed 2 years ago in Portland. Her husband claimed she harassed him, showed up at his work, stalked his new girlfriend. There were details. Threats. One line read, "Respondent has an unhealthy need to control her environment and the people in it." Sounded about right. I printed everything and put it in a folder. I wasn't done yet. I called around. Quietly. Asked one of the other neighbors, Lisa, if she'd ever had trouble with Bev. Lisa said, "Are you kidding? She once reported my dog for barking when he was inside. I had to show a video of him sleeping all day just to shut her up." I asked Lisa if she'd mind writing a statement. Something simple. Just saying Bev had a history of complaints and harassment. She said yes. Gladly. Then I remembered something. Bev worked part-time at a credit union. She bragged about it last year. Said she handled sensitive accounts. And saw people's real lives, not their fake ones. I looked up the credit union's corporate HR contact and drafted a message. I attached the spray paint photo, the glove comparison photos, Bev's handwritten gift tag, the restraining order documents, Lisa's statement, a summary of the Halloween note. I didn't sign my name. Just titled the email, subject, pattern of harassment and behavior concerns, Beverly Harrison, and I hit send. 2 days later, Bev stopped going to work. Another neighbor said she was on leave. The day after that, someone from the HOA came by our house. Not to warn us, to ask questions. Apparently, Bev had filed multiple formal complaints about us. But now that they saw the vandalism, the gloves, the timeline, they said they were reevaluating her status. I kept my cool. Smiled. Gave them copies of everything. Even pointed out her backyard cameras, 3 of them, all pointed toward other houses. A violation of the HOA's privacy rules. They said they'd handle it. And they did. A week later, Bev was fined $1,200 and told to remove all exterior cameras. Then came the day we saw the cop car in her driveway. No lights. No sirens. Just 2 officers walking up to her door. They didn't arrest her. But they gave her a written warning. Harassment. Trespassing. And a clear message, one more incident, and there would be charges. Bev didn't come outside for 2 days. When she finally did, her eyes looked wild. Like something had broken inside her. She never spoke to us again. Just glared. Danny said it made her nervous. I said we'd stay alert. We changed our locks. Put in new security lights. Got better cameras. But I told her we weren't done yet. Bev still had her little mask on in this neighborhood. Some people still believed she was a victim. A misunderstood old lady. I wasn't going to let her keep that mask. The more I dug, the worse it got. After Bev got the warning from the police, I figured she'd back off. Maybe stay quiet. But she didn't. Not really. She just got sneakier. A week after the cops visited her, Danny got an anonymous letter in the mail. No return address. No name inside. Just a printed note. Your kind always thinks they can get away with anything. Not here. It wasn't signed. But it didn't need to be. Danny is Korean American. I'm white. We've never made a big deal about it. Most of our neighbors didn't either. But Bev, she once joked that mixed marriages Never last around here. That was 2 years ago. We let it slide. We always let things slide. I was done sliding. I reported the letter to the police. They added it to the file. Still not enough for charges, but now there was a pattern, notes, vandalism, suspicion of trespassing. But the stress was getting to Danny. She stopped gardening. Stopped going for her morning walks. She kept the curtains closed even during the day. I couldn't stand seeing her like that. So I went further. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the city. I asked for records of all neighborhood complaints filed from our street. I didn't expect much. But when the documents came in 2 weeks later, my jaw dropped. Bev had filed 23 separate complaints in the past year. Not just about us. About other neighbors, too. People she didn't like. One about a family for aggressive wind chimes. Another for parking violations. That turned out to be cars parked entirely legally. But most of the complaints? Ours. She reported us for lawn overgrowth. Our grass was 3 inches. Unregistered pets. We don't own pets. Loud arguments at night. We go to bed by 10. She was trying to build a paper trail. To paint us as troublemakers. Maybe to get us fined. Or evicted. Or worse. I scanned every report. Highlighted her name. Organized them by date. Then I made copies and left them in the mailboxes of the entire block. I included a note. These are all public records. If you've ever felt targeted or watched, you weren't imagining it. That same weekend, a neighbor down the block, Tony, knocked on my door. He said, "We thought we were the only ones." She tried to report my teenage daughter for soliciting because she was handing out flyers for her school fundraiser. More neighbors came forward. Lisa. The Marshalls. Even old Mrs. Keller, who said Bev accused her of hoarding trash because she forgot to take her bin out 1 week. We all started talking. And slowly, the street began to change. People who used to avoid us now waved. Came over. Offered help. But Bev saw it too. She started yelling at cars for driving too fast. Screamed at a kid for riding a bike on the sidewalk. She stood on her porch one morning, holding a broom like a weapon, just watching the block. And then, she cracked. It was a Thursday morning in late November. Cold, quiet. Danny was walking out to check the mail when Bev came storming out of her house in a robe and slippers, screaming. "You think you're better than me?" she shrieked. "You think you're gonna push me out of my own neighborhood?" Danny froze. Didn't even know what to say. Bev kept going. "You think that garage door stunt makes you some kind of victim? You don't belong here. You and your..." That's when Tony ran over and stepped in between them. "You need to go back inside," he told her. Calm but firm. Bev tried to shove him. Screamed something I won't repeat. The police came again. This time, they didn't leave with just a warning. They had a court order. The HOA board had fast-tracked an emergency meeting. Several neighbors had filed safety complaints. The restraining order her husband had in Portland? Someone forwarded it to the board. The cops handed her the documents right there on her porch. She was being formally removed from the HOA and cited for ongoing harassment. She wasn't arrested, but the officer told her, in front of everyone, "You need to leave this neighborhood." We all stood there. Silent. Watching. Bev looked around at every face. For the first time, she realized no one was on her side. And then she slammed her door. 3 days later, a moving truck showed up. She didn't say goodbye. Didn't leave a note. Didn't speak a single word. Just stood on her porch for a second, stared at the street like she hated every inch of it, then turned and climbed into the front seat of a beat-up green Honda with duct tape on the bumper. The movers loaded her boxes like they were in a rush to get out of there too. It should have felt like a win. Like we finally got our lives back. But Danny didn't smile. She stood at the window, arms crossed, eyes red. When I asked her what she was thinking, she just said, "I hate that it had to come to this. That I had to be afraid in my own house." And I realized something. It was over, but it wasn't clean. Not for her. Not for me. And not for Bev, either. A week after she left, I got an email from someone at the credit union. It was anonymous. No name, no signature. Just a few lines. "You should know what you cost her. She's staying in a motel. No job. No family. She's not okay. Happy now?" I read it 3 times. I didn't reply. But it stuck with me. I never wanted her ruined. I just wanted her to stop. To leave us alone. To let my wife breathe again. But I didn't stop at that. I went farther. I pushed her out. Publicly. Methodically. And maybe she deserved it. Maybe she earned every ounce of it. But that didn't mean I had clean hands. Danny and I sat on the porch that weekend. The same one where we first put up the tombstone. The one that started it all. She said, "Do you think she really believed it was about her?" I shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe she just needed it to be. We were quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Can we take them down now?" "The tombstones?" I asked. She nodded. "I thought you liked them." I did. "But they're not funny anymore." She was right. They weren't. So I pulled them up. Tossed the broken one in the trash. Carried the other to the garage. I repainted the garage door. Cleaned up the yard. Tried to bring the house back to how it was before everything went sideways. And it helped. Slowly, we got back to normal. Neighbors waved again. Danny started walking again. The silence in our house felt peaceful instead of heavy. But I still think about her sometimes. About Bev. About how much damage one bitter person can do, and how far you'll go to stop them once they aim their poison at the person you love. I don't regret what I did. But I know I crossed the line. She tried to destroy our peace. So I destroyed her control. Her image. Her life. It wasn't justice. Not really. It was revenge. And it worked. But it cost me something too. Maybe not as much. But something real. And maybe that's just how it goes. In the end, no one walks away completely clean. Not even the ones who win.